joining Pointers from Paris. Together we'll say like, comment, subscribe. So guys, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Today we have a very special guest, Kesi. She is a police officer and one of my closest, longest, bestest friends. Literally like a day one. We're 6 days apart. I've known Kesi literally forever and just so grateful to have her on this show today. So I just want to start off by saying that Kesi's views do not reflect the views of the department. She is an individual and has her own views, and I'm just so excited to hear from you and learn about what you do. So let's start off by, can you tell us a little bit about what you do and who you are?
Okay, as Kara said, I'm Kesi. I am from Shinnecock Nation, just like Paris. Yes, we grew up together. I went to NYT where I played basketball and majored in criminal justice. That's like when I kind of realized this was the field that I wanted to go towards. When I graduated, well, before I even graduated, I took the Suffolk County police test. Both took that test.
Yep, I was there.
Yeah, so what was that, like our freshman year of college or something like that? So the police test, it only comes out every 4 years. So once I had graduated college, our names were already kind of eligible on that list. When I graduated, I completely forgot about it. I really didn't know which avenue I wanted to get into in criminal justice. I applied for like a bunch of different things. But I got a call and it was basically somebody that worked for the department, and they were like, hey, I think this position would be pretty good for you. We're hiring. I know you want to get into the criminal justice field. So I applied for just a part-time position at the department because I had already taken the test. It was like it just made sense. So I filled out the application, didn't really think it was going to go anywhere. And that very next summer, I got a phone call like, hey, let's start this process. And I'm like, oh, I forgot all about this. But so the first step to it was, mind you, once you fill out the application, from the time that you start the academy is probably like a full year. So
wow.
As soon as you fill out your application, you get it into whatever department you're kind of like going towards. They'll contact you saying, we want to do an interview. Got to get fingerprinted. You do the interview. You do a polygraph exam. You do the physical agility test. None of which is like terrifying, but when you don't know like what you're getting yourself into is kind of like a little bit intimidating. But I ended up getting through all of that. I worked, my first summer I graduated the academy in 2019, May of 2019, which the academy process was not as tough as I expected it to be, but it was a lot of work. And it was like a lot of dedication to it. Like on the agility side, I mean, you work out literally every day, and then on the academic side as well, because you have to kind of learn laws, procedures, all of this stuff that you're one day going to implement in your workforce. So I graduated the academy. I worked one summer, which was, I think, Memorial Day to Labor Day at Southampton Village. I ended up, since it's seasonal, it's part-time, at that department, you kind of only work in the summertime because, you know, summertime in the Hamptons is like, that's big time out here. So I was like, what am I going to do between the winter months? Like, I got to find some sort of income, some sort of something to do. And I got a call from Southampton town saying that they were hiring and asked if I was interested. And since I had already been through the academy, I had already, you know, been an officer for a couple of months, even though it was just a couple of months. I was like, I'm definitely interested. I had to do the agility test over, but fortunately I didn't have to go through the entire academy again. But once I think I did the agility, and then like 2 days later they were like, all right, come get fitted for your uniform. I was like, okay.
Oh wow.
So between the time where I like kind of was like unemployed, it was maybe 2 weeks.
Nice.
Yeah, so started then. My hire date was October 31st. So I'm almost coming up on 2 years. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I just want to dig in the weeds a little bit more. What did the police test look like?
Okay. So I took the police test a couple of times. So you kind of got to throw your name in all types of hats because it's not an easy position to get. So I took, like, Paris and I, we both took the test. Was that maybe 2015? No, 20.
Somewhere
2015?
around there, yeah.
So the test is formatted basically, it's 25 to 30 questions of mostly common sense type of things. You don't have to have any type of like criminal justice background to do well on this test. You kind of just, like I said, have to have a little bit of common sense. They give you, I think, 4 hours to do the test. You get through those 25 questions, and then the rest of the questions are pretty much like personal information questions. Have you ever done this? Have you ever done that? In this situation, what would you do? Or types of things like that. People don't think that that section of the test is important because it's just about you. But that's really what they're scoring you on. They want to know, are you the type of person that's going to be able to handle a stressful situation? Because that's what you're going to have to do in this career field. They want to know, are you going to be, is your back going to be against the wall and you're going to, tell the truth about certain things. They ask you very tedious things like, oh, have you ever lied about cheating on a test? And you think like, okay, everybody's done this, like, but they ask you everything they ask you. There's a purpose for it. They're not just throwing any outlier questions in there. So I took the test then. Once the test comes out, you're put on basically an eligibility list, and that list lasts for 4 years. So, but that's only for Suffolk County. So, there's other counties, there's Nassau County, there's NYPD. My recommendation would be to take all of them, especially if you want to get into this field. It might not be a place you want to work. You may want to work in Nassau or NYPD, but it's a lot easier to get to where you want to go if you can kind of start out anywhere. A lot of the advice that I got from like people in the community that were in this field was like, it may not be where you want to start, but like you kind of just got to take whatever is like thrown at you. It's a very hard field to get into. But that's basically like how the test is formatted. And I took the test again in, so it was 2018, probably 2020, well, maybe last year.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I took the test again last year. I actually did a little bit better on it. I think like the failing score might be a 70.
Okay.
So anything below a 70, they won't put your name on the list. But like I said, it is a very, I won't say easy test, because they can throw some tricks at you to kind of get you out of there. But I wouldn't say it's a test that you really need to study for. It's almost like the SAT, where like you don't. I say it because you have to study to take an SAT. You know what I mean? Like, you have to study to take this test. You can't study for any other test to take the SAT. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Like, SAT prep is like, it's how to take that test. So
right.
This is how it would be. Like, they have prep courses, they have prep books that you could take the test, but you're not really learning anything. You're not learning anything about the criminal justice field. You're kind of learning about like comprehension, where like you read something, you try to figure it out, and you answer the question. But I wouldn't say that there's like a course in criminal justice or like a course in math or anything that you could take to do better on the test, I would say.
Got it.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, so the test isn't super intuitive, but it is doable. That's what I'm getting.
Yes.
And let's talk about the training when you were actually accepted into the academy. What did the typical day or week look like? What was the commute like? How tired were you?
Ooh, okay.
Give me a inside scoop on that.
Okay. So I went to the part-time academy. Part-time academy and full-time academy is like night and day. Full-time, you're there every day. It's kind of like a 9 to 5. In the sense that you also get paid to be there. Like a regular 9 to 5 if you're in there full-time.
Nice.
I was only part-time, so we would go 4 days a week at night. I think it was like 4 hours a night, so maybe 5 to 9. Sometimes we'd go earlier, sometimes we'd go later. And then we would go every Saturday. They would throw in some Sundays here and there. And Saturday would be all day. So my commute, I would commute from the reservation. The academy's in Brentwood. It's at Suffolk County's like training campus. So it's probably like an hour commute, 5 times a week. So it is a lot of dedication, and especially when you're part-time and you're not getting paid to do it, it's like sometimes I was just like, can I do this? Like, can I continue to do this? But it's worth it. It's worth it's worth all of it. But you go through courses. So the very beginning would be like search and seizure, use of force. There were certain tests you had to get 100 on. Like use of force tests, you have to get 100 because you have to know the use of force procedures. There's no like, oh, well, I got one wrong. You can't. Rightfully so, you shouldn't get one wrong on use of force if, you'd ever have to use it. But all the way until the end, you're taking, you're doing your class. It's just like school. Like you're literally taking classes, taking tests, mostly every night after, or it was either an hour before or an hour at the end. You would have like our physical agility. If it was, not 30 degrees outside, we were running outside. And it's not just like, oh, you run a mile and you're done. No, like there was days where we were running like 5, 6, 7 miles. Yeah. that is what got me like the first night after, because that first day, like the very first day of the academy started on Saturday. I'll never forget, we worked out for like the first 3 hours and I was driving home like, can I do this? Like, can I really do this? But like I said, it's worth it. You just got to stick it out. And then the very end of the academy, we would have, you learn like your EMT paramedics type of thing, because technically you are an EMT. So like I said, there's a bunch of different like subjects and courses. There's laws about literally everything. So one week we would do like larcenies, next week we do arsons, next week we do homicides. Like you have to learn all these laws. I would say that the most learning that I actually did was when you actually start. So once you actually have to implement all of it, that's when like you really test yourself to like figure out what you did learn in the academy. But you also learn way more about like what to do and how to implement it when you're actually doing it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. They say that you learn most of your job on the job anyway.
Yeah.
So fast forwarding, you're in the academy, now you're at the end. What was graduation day what did it look like? What did it feel like?
Okay, so graduation was sort of like any other graduation. We literally walked across the stage and you shake the higher ups' hands. They call them the white shirts because everybody higher up, they wear a white shirt. we had a platoon leader, which like they gave a speech. I think the highest in the class gave a speech. They really tell you can only have like 4 people come, but I mean, like, we have a huge family, so I think half of the people in there were probably from my family. But it was almost like a surreal moment because everybody in my family like knew how, I wouldn't say like it was a tough time because it was a lot of dedication, but they knew like the nights coming home at 11:30 and having to wake up the next morning and go right and drive right back to Brentwood. They knew like how hard it was to talk about certain things in settings where you don't have the same views as everybody, and coming home and trying to like decompress and you know, you talk to your family about certain things that bother you. So like after seeing all that and then finally kind of like getting to the end, it was a very, I would say, a surreal moment, but it was just like kind of like a breath of fresh air. Like, okay, like
I did it.
But this, at the end of the day, it's like this is just the beginning because you haven't even started working yet.
Right. Okay, so now you're almost 2 years in. How did, or if it did, I don't know, the job description of being a first-year police officer change from now being 2 years in?
When you first start, you're on probation. Well, when you first start, you're working with somebody who's you're on field training. So in my department, we ride in solo cars. You don't have a partner. But the first, I think 8 weeks, you're riding with a veteran officer, and they're basically, at first they're kind of teaching you, but then after a while they kind of let you do your own thing, and they critique you where they can, and you know, because eventually you're going to be out there by yourself. So that is like a big difference. Working programs now that back then I was like, there's no way I'm going to figure out how to use this. Like, there's so much into everything that you do, the more paperwork you do. So it's like a lot of it seems like, oh, fun car chase or this or that. It's like everything you do, you got to do twice as much paperwork. And sometimes we would get like arrests when I was on field training, and I would look at the paperwork, like a DWI arrest easily takes you 5 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's like if you know what you're doing. So when I first started making certain arrests, I was just like, I'm looking at all the programs like, anybody back there to help? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And now, the more you do it, clearly the more, you know, you get used to the programs, you get used to the settings and everything, and you can do certain things. And I'll like look back and be like, wow, I thought I would never get this program. Like, or even just certain laws. Most of the arrests that you make are, I would say every day I go to work, I learn something new. But a lot of the arrests that you make are the same arrests that you're probably going to make your entire career.
Got it.
There are just certain things that take place more often than others, especially in the, like, it depends on what town you live in or what town you work in. So sometimes I'll do something and not really need to either like ask like, hey, how do I do this, or hey, what law is this, or what, you know, I'll go through something and I'll see something start to finish and I'm like, wow, I really kind of did that myself. Like,
yeah, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, like, wow.
Yeah,
they gave me a job and I know what I'm doing.
Well, that was great. I'm so happy that Kesi could join us today.
Me
She
too.
is our second guest, and I just want to give her, you know, warm fuzzies, all the props.
Okay.
So if you're interested in a career in law enforcement, feel free to reach out to me below. I will put some details on, you know, the opportunities that exist. And thanks so much for tuning in.
Bye.